Well, we're here again, gentlemen. The World Cup has started, and welcome to Anything Cricket Let's Talk, the straight drive edition. And we're getting straight into it.
Mhm.
West Indies off and running, the World Cup off and running. And I know for sure that the happiest man around is a guy called Basil Butcher Jr. Why? Well, the US, they started with a win, and not only a win, but an amazing cricket performance influenced by a Barbadian, but we won't go there yet. And secondly, the West Indies team also won. I wouldn't get into the nationality of the players who impacted the game at all. That wouldn't be nice.
Mhm.
But for sure, Basil Butcher Jr. I mean,
Mhm.
Hole is with us as well. I know, Basil, you are a happy man.
Yeah, primarily because West Indies won. Although I live in the US and the US team play, I know some of the guys, I know a couple of the guys in the setup and so on. Congratulations to them, well done. But as I said to some people in the chat, for me, that's not a big deal. We beat Canada like a drum. So it's been a while since Canada has beaten us. So it's not a surprise that we beat Canada. I'm looking forward to see when they match up with India. I think it's tomorrow or something like that, or the day after. When they have to match up with India, how they're gonna fare, see how. I mean, and for those players, I think it's a great opportunity for them to see where their game is at versus the best in the world. So they get a chance to gauge that, especially when they get to play against India and Pakistan. And
Before we get to win though, let's start at home. And I say that, I guess you call that tongue in cheek. And that
yeah,
US win over Canada. And I'm
mm-hmm.
talking about starting at home. I'm talking about Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, um, you know something? I know Aaron Jones. I met him because when he made the decision to switch over to come to play with the US. The club that he came and played for in New York is my club I used to play for. So
Okay.
I knew him. I got to meet him from there playing, and seen him play for the US. And he was a guy who was more a kind of grafter, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And it's obvious that I have seen this part of his game because I've seen him play in the minor league for the Atlanta franchise and other local T20 tournaments here in the United States.
Uh-huh.
And that shot over mid wicket that he perfected, where he was hitting all those sixes, has become part of his repertoire. Because if he wanted to stay in this T20 leagues and get
Right.
make that money, he could no longer be the Mr. Grafter, So he has added that, and he hit the jackpot against Canada, and sometimes we got a term we say in the Caribbean, Basadi, but the Canadian spinner, especially the left arm guy, is almost like he was Basadi because he kept bowling the ball right where Aaron Jones
As we
was.
said, sometimes he seemed it seems as though he liked the shot. So
Yes, I
you
mean,
want to say it over and over again.
I mean, even at times you see Jones backing away to square leg, right? And he still bowls the ball towards him rather than bowl it outside the off stump. So Jones has got to go there. And the biggest side of the field, ironically, at that time, was the offside. And he kept bowling to the guy with the shortest side of the field. And I mean, he did I got to give Jones great credit. 10 sixes.
Yeah. I'll tell you
uh,
something though. Yeah, Wayne, you too, Basil, but let's get Wayne in as well. The thing about Aaron Jones, from what Basil just said, and from what we know of Aaron Jones, in this playing school cricket here in Barbados, and also playing for Barbados, in actual fact, playing club cricket, is more in line with what you described in terms of a player who will go in and will work the ball around and wait for the bad ball. That type of player. That's the Aaron Jones I know. And
mm-hmm.
what we saw the other day was a totally different person in terms of what we have grown accustomed to. And what I want to say about that is, and this is what I've been saying to cricket lovers in various discussions over the years, we tend to believe that, or too many of us tend to believe that what a player is today is what he will always be. And Wayne doesn't like to hear me reference that conversation we had many years ago about Ross and Chase, the off spinner. But that fits into the same thing. And even Ross and Chase, the batsman, fits into that. But even more so than Ross and Chase, there were people knocking Shea Hope when Shea Hope, with his form in one-day internationals, and they could not see him as a T20 player. The thing is, just like how you saw Aaron Jones playing franchise cricket, I've seen Shea Hope play all sorts of cricket. And I always felt that it was within Shea Hope's ability to transform himself into a useful T20 player. He's done that. So here's hoping that on the evidence of what we've seen from Jones, what we've seen from Chase, what we've seen from Hope, and I can go back in time and name many, many people who've transformed their games for various reasons. I hope now our cricket fans can be more open-minded. Wayne, what's your view on that?
Well, first of all, I am one who've always been of the view that a cricketer has to hone his skills by playing the real cricket. Let's call it that. Real cricket. I'm talking about full length cricket game, as we know it. Nowadays, it's called red ball cricket.
Yes.
The word now is red ball.
But so we can simply say red ball cricket, and then we can call the others white ball. Because some people don't think the name cricket should be added on to T20, but we wouldn't talk about that now with the World Cup.
Listen, I am very much leaning in that direction. I'm part of that. I'm part of that school of thought. I really don't apply the word cricket to T20 at all. It's just T20. But of course, there are cricketing skills involved.
But we'll give them some respect because it's the World Cup.
I guess you can also say there are cricketing skills involved in baseball. And there are baseball skills involved in T20.
Yeah.
But yes, so I have always been of that view, though, that you needed your grounding in real cricket. And what has happened, you said it perfectly. I mean, I am just going to repeat what you said. Aaron Jones is now one of those players who exclusively plays white ball cricket. I don't think Aaron Jones plays any red ball whatsoever. And that has been
when he comes home and he plays the match for Wildy, that's probably the only time.
Well, okay, and
that's if he comes home during the red ball season.
And that's also very occasional. So yes,
very occasional.
All right. So these guys have no, and as you mentioned, I mean, you look at Ross and Chase. Ross and Chase is no longer the player that you and I knew that made the West Indies team and scored 5 Test hundreds within probably a couple of years of the start of his career. He's no longer that player. Ross and Chase has adapted his game to suit what is required at in the white ball. And I mean, Ross and Chase hardly ever plays red ball cricket. I mean, he did play.
But he played one match. He played one match for Barbados, and he scored a century. He scored a century in about half an hour.
Yeah. Okay. So he hardly plays that cricket. So yes, that the same thing goes for Shea Hope. Shea Hope scarce hardly plays red ball. These guys are now honing their skills. These are guys now zeroing in and targeting their game to playing white ball. And of course, there are different skills required for white ball. Mind you, the way that Ross and Chase batted on Sunday, Ross and Chase would not be successful in regular red ball cricket if he batted that way, because there's so many differences involved in the game. I mean, we talk about the red ball swings a lot longer. For instance, the restrictions involved in white ball are not. You don't have those luxuries in red ball. I mean, you got 3 and 4 sets behind there waiting for the edge. In white ball, when you edge, you get 4. The crowd goes mad.
Yes, yeah.
So as I said, these guys, to their credit, they recognize where the bread. Well, not the bread. They've got the bread. They recognize where the butter is.
Buttered.
They recognize where the jam is.
Yes.
And they've won their games so that, so basically.
The thing what you said there is interesting about the differences you talk about, the edge and so on. And we saw today where a pitch that would more resemble playing a red ball match was played today. That where your technique would be challenged and so on. And they had a slip fielder and a couple guys
at one stage I had two.
Yes, and a couple of guys got caught in slip. Like, I mean, Sunday, Brandon King, if you remember, he got one that went through, and the wicketkeeper was up to the stumps. Had the wicketkeeper been standing back, it would have been a comfortable catch for the wicketkeeper. But normally, the wicketkeeper and the slip would have been there waiting for that, and he would have been back in the pavilion, right? An interesting thing, too, about today's game, Reza Hendricks, no foot movement, and just jabbed his bat and went to the slip and was gone, right? I mean, it was an unusual T20 match to see those kind of things. And I'll tell you, I was so happy because I am one of those that feel that we got too many guys that play T20 that are not, like, from a batting perspective, not even really batsmen. They're hitters. But because of the nature of the pitches, they can get away and be successful as hitters. Their techniques don't get challenged because of the benign nature of the pitches. It's funny, I saw a tweet from the former Indian player Mohammad Kaif after the game with Bangladesh and India. He said,
You're talking about the warm-up game.
Yes, he said, this pitch, you gotta have technique. This is not the IPL.
You gotta be careful though, otherwise he wouldn't be able to live in India.
But you touch on a very very interesting topic. The pitches. I mean, I don't know if I may be allowed for to touch on the Barbados game last night. When I saw that pitch last night,
yes,
and the game that the way the game played, I contacted a group that I discussed cricket with, and my first say was, look, this is nothing like the IPL. We are not going to have a World Cup anywhere similar to that IPL. That none of the surfaces that I'm seeing, and it brings the bowlers into the game.
Yes,
because in India. In the IPL, the bowlers are kept out of the game. I mean, the whole idea is to nullify bowlers. You know, bowlers are really an endangered species in the IPL. This tournament, from what I've seen so far, we saw those slow, tacky wickets at Guyana and at Barbados. And then we got this one yesterday that was today in New York. That was full of juice. That's the first day test pitch, Skipper.
Yes, exactly.
That is the first day test pitch.
Wade, you know what I said to Mark Harper, me and him in a group? I said, Mark, it's a test match pitch. He said, test match? Yes, that is a test match pitch. And you know the funny thing? Another guy said, one of the things about these drop-in wickets, that's usually what happens when they first run them out. It takes some playing on them for them to really get their character on you, and so on. So that is the unfortunate thing. There was not enough cricket played on those pitches, so we getting some fresh new drop-in pitches.
So maybe
that's gonna show those characters.
So maybe by that theory, then the batters may get themselves may come into their own as the tournament goes on.
Well, I don't think they're playing long enough. They're waiting that the pitchers can get the character because I think it's by next week. I think the last game is sometime next week, and that would be it for New York.
Well, you know, gentlemen, we talk about the pitches and so on. But before we move to the crowds, let's talk about the facilities that we've seen so far. The actual facilities now, the ground itself, the whole picture. I mean, I was at Kensington, and certainly I don't recall ever seeing Kensington looking so impressive.
Right. Yes. I must say that so far, what I saw at Kensington, Providence, the upgrades they've done there at Providence also. I was fortunate to see, because a friend of mine who on the local organizing committee there sent me pictures of the dressing room at Providence. I mean, it looks totally different. I had heard some really bad stories about the decrepit nature of the dressing rooms, where they didn't even had proper running water and all those kind of things. So players weren't able to take a shower there. They had to wait until they got back to the hotel to take a shower. Well, all of that has changed. The place looks immaculate. All the toilet facilities at the different stands are immaculate, which it never was like that for a while, you know. And that's part of, I think we have discussed this before, about something that we don't do in the region. We don't budget nothing for maintenance. Because if we had budgeted something for maintenance, a lot of these upgrades would not be necessary, because you had been maintaining the facility in a pristine state.
You know, I don't know about Ghana. I don't know about Ghana, Basil, and you were growing up in Ghana, but Wayne can bear me out. I would imagine in Barbados, coming up to Christmas, you get people painting. You get all sorts.
Yes,
of things.
We do that in Ghana too.
Right, and this sort of behavior, you call it behavior. This sort of behavior when we have these major events, reminds me of that mentality, which one may say is understandable or even acceptable or whatever for let's say a private homeowner, for private homeowners who may very well be busy and working all but 2 weeks in a year anyhow, many of them. To have that look for Christmas, to entertain their friends and that sort of thing, or even if not entertaining, just when people pass by, you know, the house looks a certain way. But I believe at the national level, you really got to do better.
Yeah.
But so that when Kensington is not just an ordinary cosmetic job. Again, if I may get parochial, you know, sometimes we may paint old boards.
Yes,
you know, but in the case of this refurbishment at Kensington,
but really, just let me before you put me in a position now to be the bullseye or whatever. I was responding mainly to Basil's comment about dressing rooms and basic things that were not maintained according to him. My comment about that isn't necessarily related to Kensington, because you're quite right. I'm not going to steal your thunder, but you're quite right about Kensington. There's a lot of newness about it. Go ahead.
No, because I mean, it's a fact. Kensington was run down. Kensington, like most of our buildings or whatever, whether it be government or institutions, well, not necessarily private sector, but I find that it happens in government a lot. You know, we don't have a culture of maintenance.
Correct. We don't.
You know, I like to call it. I like to call it again. If I may, a mash up and buy back mentality.
So it's good that we have these events from time to time, so that, you know, we're forced to do something.
Even the drainage system in Barbados has had a shot in the arm, let's put it, with the hurricane season approaching. And I've heard it said by a number of people in Barbados, they wish that there was a World Cup every 4 years or so. The whole country would get a facelift.
It's interesting that you talk about 4 years. I remember, as you guys probably recall, I taught in Bermuda, about 20 in the mid-90s, and I remember at the end of the first year, someone came to my classroom and asked me what color I wanted my classroom painted. So I thought it was just a conversation starter. You know, somebody, you know, just maybe had some lunch and just wanted to chit chat until the next lesson. But I was able to find out then that it was a national policy to, what should I say, not refurbish, what word do we use? To fix up the government buildings every 3 years. That was a national spruce up. That was a national policy. So by then I'd been teaching for like 15 years. And in most cases, if I wanted something painted, well, you had to do it yourself or get some parents in to help you. But here was a national policy where you spruce up, to use your term, government buildings every 3 years. And that really is reflected in the entire society, because at that time, I haven't been there recently, but at that time when you drive through Bermuda, it was very difficult to find any building that didn't look new, private or government.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, because one of the things I heard this guy talking on another show therein, because he's doing some kind of consulting with the guys in Florida, the committee there. And the thing that he noted, you know, about being in the United States and these events, about the amount of resources available in the US versus, say, in the Caribbean. Because he said, look, for example, in Florida there, the parking, the folks ain't gonna, at the stadium, they're not gonna deal with the parking. They'll hire a company who handles parking for big events. They sign a contract, blah, blah, blah. They will handle the parking. So that headache is out of your thing. Whereas in the Caribbean, if you're the organizing committee, you gotta take care of the parking. That is, you can't go and call up some company who specializes in that, because for one, that is not something that is usually done all the time in the region to want to have a company itself. And the other thing was, I was talking with some guys from St. Vincent, and they intimated to me that it was the governments, both St. Vincent and Barbados. Government facilitated getting the crane from Barbados to St. Vincent to put up the lights at the Arnes Vale, right? Had it not been for government facilitating something like this, it could have taken months for this crane to cut to St. Vincent, right? Whereas in the United States, you just get up, you go in the Yellow Pages, you look for some company that do stuff with crane, you call them up, we would like to do blah, blah, blah. You reach a deal, and the company comes out and does the job. You know, those kinds of things. He was noting, the difference. So in essence, what he was trying to say, that we got to give the people in the Caribbean big credit for what they have done with the resources that they have vis-a-vis in compared to larger countries. And I must say, Kensington overlooked very impressive, very impressive. I mean, I noticed they got like a hospitality suite in the Hall and Griffith stand there too. They got at the top part there. Is that correct, what I was seeing? Hospitality kind of suite.
Yes, next to the media center, yes.
Yeah.
No, that's not what he's talking. He mentioned the Hall and Griffith.
Hall and Griffith.
Oh.
Yeah, because I saw like structures above there, like glass thing where people could look out.
Oh, that's not new. I think he's talking about the boost of the 3W stand. That's what he's talking about.
No, Hall and Griffith. Hall and Griffith.
The
Hall and Griffith never had that before.
Which is the stand behind where the dugouts are. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. Oh, the Hall and Griffith. Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I have had, from my angle that I have seen the Oval so far, I would not have been able to see that unless I would have seen it on the television. Mm-hmm. But from up to this evening, I was on the ground at the Oval, but standing from the northern end in the area of the Players Pavilion, I would not have been able to recognize that change, if it is a change at the Hall and Griffith. So next time I look out for that.
Yeah, check because the time when I was in Barbados, I see Test cricket. One day I sat in the Hall and Griffith. I can't remember somewhere where people could be up there, like in a suite and looking out, because nobody was in that stand at all last Sunday night. I noticed that stand was totally empty.
But no, because I think part of the reason is that they have barred off part of the Hall and Griffith, because that is the area now where the
dugouts
are situated. So I think that
gotcha.
So I think what may have happened is that they might have done some extra building above the level that would have normally been blocked out by the dugout. So like I said, my next visit to Kensington, I will make a note to look for look for that development.
Talking about visits to Kensington, guys. Let's have a look at the crowds. We may have touched on it briefly, but the West Indies opening match against Papua New Guinea. The match at Kensington between Namibia and Oman, and then the game in New York that brought together Sri Lanka and South Africa. The crowds, any concerns there, gentlemen?
Well, I myself was a bit taken aback with the situation in Guyana, because I figured that with West Indies playing, that we would have had a much better turnout to see West Indies, despite the fact that they were playing
Papua
it
New
was
Guinea.
Papua New Guinea, despite it was the fact that but the West Indies, with all the hype that has gone into the West Indies and the prospect, the realistic prospects, so I must say, of West Indies actually
Winning.
winning and doing very, very well in the competition. I was a bit taken aback by the paucity, if I can use, of the crowd. Providence maybe is a reflection of people actually choosing and picking and choosing their games. It may be a reflection of ticket prices and the like. So that one was a bit of a surprise to me. But as the Barbados game last night with Oman and Namibia playing at 8:30 at night on a Sunday night, no, that would not have surprised me whatsoever. I thought they did very well to get the 6,000 people that they say they had into that game at, as they said, in the well, Sunday night and as a night came too.
I like how you put that, Wayne. The 6,000 people that they said they had.
I can only go. I didn't count them.
Yeah, Basil. I mean, that's Basil's hometown. Guyana, and Basil. Wayne is surprised by was surprised by these small numbers. In West Indies opening game. I believe that I don't know if I was surprised because I don't know what would have been done to encourage a bigger crowd. What are your thoughts? That's your town.
I mean, this has been a topic of discussion throughout today in several chat groups I'm in with Guyanese friends and so on. And I as I was saying earlier,
before we came on air,
yeah, I think that 10:30 start played as a factor. I think also there was some concerns about the weather. And one of the things people often wait on close to the event to buy their tickets. And I think all of those things, and plus it's Papua New Guinea. But I don't know in terms of the marketing, how much they have been pushing, marketing these games on local media, social media, etc., etc. A situation where everywhere, like say in Georgetown, everywhere you turn, you would see some big picture of one of the West Indies players, a big lifestyle. Because I could tell you, when they have the CPL in Guyana, that is the atmosphere that you have. Because friends of mine who have gone down the last 2 years, guys tell me when you're in Georgetown, that's the buzz around the town. The taxi drivers, everybody just talking about the CPL games and that excitement you see.
And what about the attendance for those games?
Rampacked.
Okay, so tell me, what are the ticket prices like for CPL games?
That's an interesting question I need to find out. In compared to this World Cup, what are the prices for the CPL? Because you always, when you see the games in Guyana, and probably more importantly, those games are all at night. The games, particularly if Guyana is playing, they're all at night. They're not no 10 o'clock.
Well, I don't know where in the Caribbean or what period in the Caribbean one would have found people going to cricket in droves a Sunday morning at 10:30. Even in the days of Test cricket with the 4-prong pace attack, when West Indies cricket was on everybody's lips, you would not normally get the type of crowd a Sunday morning that you would get at any time on a Saturday. You would get more probably than during the course of the week because people work during
the crowd would build up. It was general that the crowd would build, especially towards lunchtime or just after.
in Test cricket. As I said, these are the glory days. And still, you didn't have at 10:30 a packed stadium. I would say anywhere in the Caribbean. That would be very unusual. So I don't know where the thinking was. In fact, I shouldn't say I don't know where the thinking was. That's dishonest of me.
We know where that
because
is.
we know that this, as I said in a chat group you were talking with chat, that this World Cup really is not for Caribbean people. Because if it were for Caribbean people, certainly you wouldn't have a West Indies playing a match at 10:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Especially against, no discredit to Papua New Guinea, but especially a game that would not necessarily attract the sort of interest, like if West Indies maybe had been playing England or Australia, for example. So clearly, the West Indian people, the West Indian crowd would not have been foremost in the minds of those who made those decisions.
You said that the turnout may not be for West Indian people.
I didn't say may, I say is it?
You say England. Well, I'm willing to say that it may very well be that West Indian people are not for this World Cup. And I don't know how many West Indians are going to pack the stands, especially here in the Caribbean, for this World Cup. It's going to be interesting. England plays Scotland tomorrow at Kensington. It's going to be interesting to see the makeup of that crowd, the size of that crowd, and the makeup. And I can already tell you, the game on Saturday between England and Australia, a ticket is like premium. It's going to be at top premium. I spoke to one of the top officials in Barbados and in the local organizing committee this afternoon, and I jokingly told him, I would like 2 tickets for the game on Saturday. He said, "Me boy, that's like asking for $1 million." So tickets are for So we're going to see, I suspect that we're going to see a different picture, particularly for certain marquee games. You're still going to get the crowds for particular marquee games, but those crowds will not be made up primarily of West Indians. That is my suspicion.
Well, gentlemen, we really can't close the show without zeroing in on what I suppose is the biggest concern for the real cricket fan in the region, and that's the performance of the West Indies team. You saw a bit of a stutter against the Papua New Guinea. Any thoughts on where we are as a team? Now, we talked about the facilities, we talked about the conditions, the pitches, we talked about the crowds. Now, what about the cricket? And I'm talking about West Indies cricket now. What have you picked up, if anything, from the experience in the opening game?
One of the things, this new style that Sami is pushing, where they press on the accelerator and just keep pressing on the accelerator throughout the inning, from ball one. We saw glimpses of it against South Africa with Brandon King, and also, well, we know what Charles does, but we have seen like an extra added with Brandon King. You see him running down the pitch to bowlers, almost sometimes before the ball gets out of the bowler's hand, he's down the pitch to them, looking to hit them to all parts. And so that's one part. The other part, we saw a general weakness that we have seen over the years with West Indian batters. The minute the pitch does a little something, our batters are under pressure. And an interesting point I have posited with Phil Simmons in the dugout with Papua New Guinea, and Phil Simmons knowing all of these batters inside out, not only from a skill perspective, but from a mental perspective. It's almost, when you watch particularly the first 3 bowlers for Papua New Guinea, is almost like those guys knew where they had to bowl for these particular batters. Like they got some information from somewhere else, because the areas they were putting the balls in. Because look at Puran, for example, how he looked so bad. He took how many balls to get off the mark, and so on. It's almost like they knew exactly where. And lucky for us that Papua New Guinea did not review the LBW, because that was a beautiful piece of bowling, set up Puran nicely, going across his body, and then gave him the one that came back, and he was not ready for that one at all. And to me, that looked more plumb than the LBW decision the same umpire gave early earlier in the over to give out
Johnson
First,
Charles?
but first
Charles.
batter.
Yeah. And again too, we saw too some of the shakiness that we all expect to see of our death bowling. I mean, Alzari giving up 14 runs in that last over. That was a lot of runs in the context of that game. You know, so those are some of the things that kind of stood out at me. And also, I know Wayne has this bugaboo about the 1 over, a man bowler 1 over, and then you change it and break out of the man bowler 1 over and give away 2 or 3 runs, you take it off and break. And I saw guys talking about that. And I would tend to agree, because a team like Papua New Guinea, who never played against the West Indies, they don't know the West Indies players. After 1 over, I think you could have bowled guys more than 1 over to put the pressure on them, to keep putting the pressure on them. Your mindset could have been, look, we're looking to bowl this team out in about no less than about 15 overs. So we're not going to back off on them. And I thought we did back off and allow them some breathing room, and they end up getting a half decent score.
And you know, I'm going to jump in here because you introduced my pet peeve, if you want to call it that. If there's one aspect of the West Indies team that I believe can and probably will hurt our chances of going all the way, it's the death bowling. When it comes to the opening batsman, you've got options. Brandon King on his day will score runs. Johnson Charles on his day will send the bowlers and the fielders looking for cover. And if Shea Hope gets into the side, we know that he can contribute as well. So, you know, we've got some expectations there. I think it's reasonable to expect that the openers will give us some good performances as we go through the tournament. Whether it will happen or not, we don't know, but it's a reasonable expectation. We know what the middle order is like. We know we've got Chase, who is fairly adaptable. He can play the ball up and down the line, or he can look for the boundary. So too Hope if Hope bats in the middle order. We know we've got your Robin Powell, and they've got the power in people like Shepard and Russell and so on. So we've got options there. We've got the spin of Moti, Akil Hossain, and Chase. And between Hossain, Chase, Shamar Joseph, if he comes into the mix-up, and 1 or 2 others, you've got people that can bowl at the top of the innings. The only thing to my mind that we don't have covered is the death bowling, and that's our fault. Some years ago, I raised that in the chat that you're also in, Basil, and the fellas almost took my head, because when I raised that, it was around the same time that Jason Hole had taken a hat trick against an England B team that had come down to the Caribbean, and people felt that, you know, you've got Jason Hole, you've got Romario Shepherd, you've got Obed McCoy. I have not seen any consistency from Obed McCoy that tells me he's going to be an effective death bowler. Romario Shepherd, whenever Romario Shepherd picks up the ball, I get very, very jittery, very, very nervous. Jason Holder does not have the greatest reputation bowling at the death, but even if he's your best option, and he's not in the team here now, but even if he was your best option at the death, I've observed over the years that he is extremely effective at the top in picking up an early wicket or 2. And my own thinking is, I mean, I'm not a cricket expert, but common sense tells me that the guys who get out in the first 5 or 6 overs can't hurt you in the last 4 or 5. You know, so if you've got bowlers who are capable of picking up wickets for you early on, utilize them in that role. Why would you bowl a guy like Hossain, for example? Hossain didn't even finish his spell. He's not a death bowler. So why hasn't he completed his spell? 3 overs for 9 runs and he's got a wicket, and he doesn't finish his spell? No, we won the game. So that's going to be dismissed as, well, Philip just talking foolishness. Had we lost that game, especially
that would have been brought
game,
up. That would have been brought up.
you know, so we've got some issues there.
Well, I personally, I don't have a big problem with West Indies bowling per se. I think we've got a good
death
enough
bowling is what we're talking about, Wayne. Just the death bowling.
To hold this on, yeah. But death bowling, but generally bowlers go for runs in the death.
Yes, but if these same bowlers are going for runs every time, that's a problem, man.
But here we go with my problem is really with my issue was, my concern was with the batting. The 136 was modest, and it was a total that even on that track, that I would have expected the West Indies to make easily. What concerned me was the fact that against the Papua New Guinea spinners, there was this ineptness that was displayed, and there was also this rush, this rush that was going on in the thinking of most of the batters. I personally was never worried that we were going to lose that game, not as long as.
I wish I had your confidence, man.
No,
I was very worried. I was concerned that we would be out of the World Cup in the first game, because let's face it, man, had we lost that game, we would have been out of the World Cup, because even to beat Papua New Guinea and Uganda, you still got a lot of work to do, because you've got to beat at least Afghanistan or New Zealand to advance, and that's not going to be easy. So if you're going to lose to Papua New Guinea, you're virtually out of the World Cup.
I had no fear of losing that game. The chase at the wicket, Andrea Russell not out. They would have had to get Andrea Russell out for me to start to get concerned.
Well,
even with Mario Shepherd.
Well, that was.
But I'm not even going there.
But that was my thing though with it, Wade, because I was just saying, Russell, don't get out, please, and and expose them guys. Because we scored 40 runs in the last 5 overs to win this game, and we were stuttering. And it's when Chase and Russell started to open up, and in those last 5 overs, when particularly Chase, when Chase started to open up, I started to breathe more a sigh of relief, because he was opening up with not taking high risk shots. Those were good shots he was playing. So it wasn't like he was swiping and getting away with something. He was playing good song shots. And the thing about Chase for me, and why I like him in that role, even when Chase failed badly for the West Indies and I felt he should have been dropped from the Test team, the thing I appreciated about Chase, he has always made tough runs. There, while in Test cricket, he has made tough runs. One inning always stands out to me is 100 against England when Mark Wood was running at the West Indies. And Chase take he lashes all over and battle and made a fighting 100 in circumstances where everybody else was ducking for cover, bar young Bravo. Khalil Bravo, I think he made a 50, right? But so and other times I've seen Chase make half centuries to the West Indies in tough circumstances. So I feel this role that he is playing as the anchor, so to speak, suits his temperament very well. And as we were talking earlier, Chase has shown that he can extend his game to hit boundaries and up the tempo of his innings, which bodes well for him, because there was a time, just like Sheho, people said, Chase, T20? No.
That's because we don't expand our thinking. He's expanded his cricket, but we don't expand our thinking. There was a time
Philip, I think we must accept, though, that it is only since Chase, that relationship that he grew with Sammy and Floyd Reefer at the St. Lucia franchise in the CPL, that we noted this. Previous to that, Chase in the T20 game would have been a no as a batter.
Wayne, nobody here is disagreeing with you. What we're saying is that people can adapt and people can improve and people can change. That's all we're saying. We're not denying. We accept what you're saying, what we used to be. The difference between myself and probably most other people is that what I see from you today, I do not put a full stop there and figure, well, that is Wayne Holder today. Wayne Holder will always be like that. And I don't know if it's my background as a teacher or I don't know the reason for it, but I don't put those sort of barriers on people. I think people are dynamic creatures, and we can adapt.
As far as I'm concerned, the only time is no.
Well, there we go. There we go.
I think especially with the advent of the white ball cricket in West Indies, in world cricket, We have had we have had several occasions where selectors have pigeonholed players as a white ball cricketer only. And so Pollard comes to mind. The guy from Jamaica, Powell, is another one that comes to mind. They never got opportunities to play Test cricket much. I mean, I think Powell played 2 games. But they pigeonhole these guys. They played over 100 and change one-day games.
Oh, you're talking about Powell, Ricardo Powell.
Ricardo Powell.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes. Because you remember he was pigeonholed.
Yeah. When you said 2 games, I was a bit alarmed because I thought you meant Kyron Powell.
No. Yeah.
But we were on the same page now. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we selectors have selected.
He played a couple of games and top scored in one of those games with 30.
That was in
okay. So we observed the changes made, the transformation made by your Chase and by your Shea Hope. Likewise, you're not going to pick Craig Brathwaite for T20.
No.
The difference with Craig Brathwaite is that it is clear to one and all that Craig Brathwaite has no intention of changing. You see, with Hope, I actually saw the process. What made me recognize that Hope could be a T20 player is what I saw of him at, let's call that the lower level, at the domestic level. What I saw there, I recognized that you must have something that you can build on. And then I actually saw him building on it. In fact, it was just last season when he played for Pickwick in the local, I think it was the 50 over competition, the white ball competition last year. And if you remember, when there was a period where Pickwick was knocking off runs in 6 and 7.
Yeah, he was dominant. He was dominant.
He was dominant. So I saw that, and I read it. I didn't ask him anything. I read into that. Here's a guy preparing himself. And then it was right after that in the CPL that we saw, probably for the first time, a fairly dominant Shea Hope. So I saw the process. I don't see that with Craig Brathwaite. I think Craig Brathwaite has accepted that he is what he is. And therefore, I don't have a problem with that because that's what he wants.
But no, the discussion really was not about Craig. I just used Craig as an illustration.
But it's a good thing that you raise. It's a good thing that you raise because everybody doesn't necessarily want to be different.
I want to be, and I also want to spend a couple of minutes or a few seconds on Roston Chase, though. This is a brand new Roston Chase. This is a man who not only has transformed his game and his approach to the game. I don't know if I'm sure you are aware that Roston Chase is now highlighting the elite fitness program that he has entered into, which includes even his diet, what he eats and what he doesn't eat, how he trains, and how he has prepared. So it goes beyond just transforming the mind towards how he approaches the game, but he has deliberately set out to get himself in a position so that he can become a counting force in especially at the T20 level.
And you also say in his fielding.
And in the fielding, I mean, it is like I said, it is an elite fitness that you are seeing. This is a different man altogether. I don't know if I will hope that Hope is not insulted if I tell you something. I mean that Chase would not be insulted by me saying, you know what was Chase's nickname at school?
No.
Chase's nickname at school was Droopy. Right? And you could easily understand why watching Roston Chase in the outfield. You know, the way he moved, the way he carried himself, that could well you could imagine him having a nickname such as that. So this man is an example. I think a lot of other players should use Roston Chase as an example of what fitness and preparedness can do to you and your game.
Wayne, very interesting that you brought up that Roston Chase has embarked on or is doing a very elite fitness program.
Oh boy, when you started Basil now. Okay, go
ahead. No.
I just tease you, Basil. Keep going. Yes, keep going.
The reason why you brought several people in my chat that when we was talking after the game were noting about Chase and his fitness. And my point to them was that, to me, since I seen Chase playing for the West Indies, etc., he's always been a fit guy. I seen him pull up his shirt and I see the scrubbing board. He's never been a guy. That's the thing of all. But now that you're saying that he has actually ramped it up, so that makes it more noticeable to the lay person's eye that this guy, you know, I mean, the way he running between the wickets, he's striking the ball, could hit the ball for six with ease, extending his shots and the catch that he took, you know, all of those things. Now we see,
and it has done wonders for his confidence.
Of course,
because he believes that he can do things that he previously probably would not have tried. So it has done wonders for his confidence.
That's
so
one
I think,
thing.
like I said,
that's one thing when you got elite fitness, because you feel you could do anything. That confidence is parted. That's one thing that helps to nurture confidence.
That game that was played last night, you know, I was saying the game at Kensington, you know, I was saying that the two teams that played in that game may not be a good measure. Because a lot of discussion went in also about the pitch at Kensington last night in that first game. And I was making the point that the two teams, the quality of the batsmanship of the two teams may not be a good judge, and it would be best to wait until you see better quality players play on such a surface.
True. Well, look, David Weiser, who's an experienced player, was able to come in and hit sixes at will.
Take charge of the game.
Yeah.
Well, having revisited that whole game, Wayne, just before we close, I just wanted to use that to revisit the point I was trying to make about my concern about the West Indies death bowling. So I'm going to ask you a question. There was a guy from Oman who bowled the last over in their game against Namibia and defended 5 runs. And were it not for, yes, I know if it's a small, is a big 2-letter word, but had it not been for, I don't want to say the keeper, let's say the keeper not being able to take the ball cleanly. I'm not blaming the keeper because that ball made a lot of height.
It bounced,
right, yeah. So I'm not trying to fault the keeper or make him feel worse than he probably feels.
He had a chance with the run.
Give me a chance, man. Give me a chance, man. Right. So had he been able somehow to collect that ball, or had the ball dropped in front of him where he could have put it onto the stumps, they actually would have won the game.
Yes.
But it would have started with a guy defending 5 runs.
5 runs.
Final over. So my question to you, gentlemen, if West Indies find themselves, and I'm not saying that ball is going to do that every time, but what I'm saying is, if West Indies find themselves in a game in this World Cup where we need to defend 5 runs to try to win a game or get to a super over, who would you, and all the bowlers have overs left, who would you give the ball to? Let's go with Dwayne first. Since you don't have a problem with our death bowling, who would you throw the ball to?
First of all, just to refer to the Oman situation, the guy that they chose to bowl the death over was their most experienced bowler, and I guess the man that they trusted most. The think tank, that would not have been a willy-nilly decision. The think tank would have gone together and they would have decided, well, look, this, in a situation like this is the best man.
The think tank didn't extend that to the
we would trust that. We would trust it, but this is the Tabora I'm talking about.
No, we talking about two different things, man. You're not listening to me.
Listen, let me give me my chance. The guy that bowled the last over, can't get his name called now, right? He bowled
doesn't matter to answer the question I asked, man. I asked a simple question, man. Who would you throw the ball to in the West Indies team to defend 5 runs?
Like I said, let me refer back to the Oman situation. The guy Bilal is the best bowler that on any given day, and you were to choose the best bowler in the Oman side, you would have chosen Bilal. All right. On the night, the guy he bowled very well. He got 3 wickets for a few runs, but he had also bowled the last over. You know, who maybe the case may have been that, okay, he's bowling over. Let's bring somebody who might be a bit fresh or whatever. In the case of the West Indies, I don't know. I will trust my think tank the same way as I mentioned. I will trust Sammy Powell, the coaching staff, the technical staff to come up, whoever they would come up with, I would have to trust them. That's my position.
So I asked you who you would choose, and you told me you would trust Sammy and the others to make the choice. Okay,
I don't
Basil,
know
who would you choose?
Alzarri Joseph.
Uh-huh.
And reason why, he did it before. Defended 9 runs in that game against Netherlands. So he got that in his back pocket. None of the other guys in the team ain't got that experience in their back pocket. So I can go with Alzarri.
Okay, right. And I respect that because you've answered my question. You know, whether I agree with the answer or not is immaterial.
Right.
The point is you've answered the question I asked. And maybe I made too much of a preamble by bringing Oman and maybe into it. My simple question was, given that I am concerned about the deaf bowling, help me by sharing with me who you would choose were it up to you. And that was my simple question. You said Alzarri Joseph. And you know, I may very well have to choose Alzarri Joseph as well, because it may be the best decision out of a number of not very great options. Because Alzarri Joseph has been leaking runs in white ball cricket for the West Indies for quite some time. But given the example that you give, okay, and given the set of circumstances and the lack of a real,
I am almost sure. I'm not 100%. That if you go back and check the history of Oman's cricket, you will find that the guy Bilal is that man that you're talking about.
Again.
You know,
again. So therefore, this guy has the reputation for Oman to do that.
Hold on.
I'm not interested in Oman, man. I want to know who is the West Indians defender of 5 runs.
How can I sit down here and say that?
Basil says Alzarri Joseph. Basil, go ahead.
Basil can say that. I cannot say that because it is contextual. It is to do with what is happening on the night of the game, the day of the game. I cannot sit down here a day after or 2 days after and tell you I will bowl this, what that. But I cannot. It would be ingenious of me if I try to say that.
The interesting thing, the guy that bowled that over the defended the 5 runs is not Bilal. It was Mehran Khan.
No. Bilal is
no. But Bilal is their big bowler because the think tank decided to have Bilal bowl the super over, despite the fact that the other Khan had defended 5 runs. And many of us were saying,
but using your argument that you have got Alzarri Joseph's experience to back you, I am saying that if you go back, Bilal would be that man.
No, and you know, and then to the other side, what you saying to Wayne, because we don't know the stats with if Bilal Khan had been put in this position for them before. But using what you also stated, the state of the game, how the game went, how the bowlers were bowling, so you get a feel like, you know what, this guy on today. I know Bilal is my man, but how this guy going today, I think I going with this guy no. And I think last night, and I think last night, the think tank went with their conventional choice, who is Bilal, who is their big bowler, and not going with the guy who just defend 5 runs. And
it would have been acceptable if they had chosen the guy. Who knows? The guy could have gone for the same 21 runs too. No, but we will never know.
The thing about it, as you talking about it, because I was like, why y'all didn't bowl back the guy with the 5 runs? But now I realize who bowled it over. He is their top man, right? That is the man they lean to whenever blah blah blah. So, you know, it just didn't work out last night.
It just didn't work out last night. We will never know. That's the nature of the game, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times, you know, my thing always when I used to coach, you know, coaching teams, and the captain make a decision on the field, and I looking out and I like, why he do that? You know, and when the captain come in, and I asked the captain, you know, why did you make blah, blah, blah? And if he can't give me a sound cricket reason, we gonna have a conversation, right? But if he gives me a good cricket rationale, I can be say, okay, it just didn't work or whatever, because not every plan that you plot comes out as you planned it. As we know in life, most of our plans never work. Nothing.
And you got to adapt and adjust, huh?
Exactly. Most things in life, you always got to make an adjustment.
Yeah, but you know, I think you summed it up, Basil, because we ended up discussing the strengths and weaknesses of Oman, which really was not where it was going with it. I simply wanted to create an awareness of why Philip Hackett, I'm concerned about the deaf bowling. Because I'm concerned about it doesn't mean that it is, I mean, my concern might be misplaced, and I'd be glad if that is proven to be so. So I simply asked a simple question, which you answered quite clearly. And then a dodgy question on side of defense. And deflecting the discussion to something that was not,
simply that Wayne cannot answer it. I will not be dishonest if I try to answer that question.
Well, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer my own question.
I would be dishonest to myself if I try to answer that question.
I'm going to answer my own question. Whatever the circumstances, Basil, okay? I would be a bit, what should I say? Perplexed as to who to give that over to, for the simple reason that we do not have anyone we do not have anyone in the team who we can identify as having a record of bowling well at the death.
That's fair.
I agree with you that Alzarri Joseph would be.
Why I chose Alzarri, because out of that group.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I am with you on that. I understand that because somebody got to bowl it, right?
Yes.
Somebody got to bowl it. Well, all I'm saying is that when Darren Bravo played, not Darren Bravo, Dwayne Bravo. Okay?
Yes, we know. We could throw it to Dwayne Bravo.
Because
and that's why me, for example, when Dwayne Bravo retired, and I remember we had a 50 over tournament playing in Antigua, and they had him as a roving coach or advisor to the bowlers, and he was going team to team to team,
Yeah.
And even said he was enjoying that role.
Yes.
And I said to myself, because after he retired, I said, we have not got anyone that even comes to approximate Bravo as a dead bowler. And it would behoove me for us to not have him in our setup, specifically to guide bowlers on that role. No, you know it? Afghanistan got him in the hut.
Well, there's a saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. And there are many ways of interpreting that. Sometimes you interpret it to mean if you have something and you don't use it, it doesn't function when you're ready for it. I guess that's one interpretation. But another interpretation could be if you don't use the resources that are at your disposal, somebody else may take that resource and you lose it. And that
we got applicable. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that we got 3 West Indians who have recently been around West Indies team. I'm not actually 4, sorry. I forget by Eswick. He's with not Papua New Guinea. He's with Nepal, yeah. So you got Roddy. You
got 2 legends.
You got Roddy. You got Phil Simmons with Papua New Guinea. You got Pollard with England and Bravo with Afghanistan.
So you got 2 of your legends and 2 of your coaches.
Exactly. I mean, on one, that's a nice thing.
I mean, but don't forget, West Indies have one of the legends too. West Indies have Darren Sammy.
Yes. Legend as a captain.
Well, guys, laugh at Sammy all you want. But closing comments, Basil. I mean, you can give your comments from your perch on top defense.
This fence that you're talking about, on top of the fence. I need to be honest with myself. But if I may, like you said, to close off though, this World Cup, the surfaces are going to be key on how teams adapt to the
Yeah,
surfaces, I suspect.
I agree.
One of the things that I have observed about the West Indies, about their style of play, I think they have read the importance of taking pace off the ball on these wickets. And the West Indies' success over those last 3-4 series. Remember, we beat England, we beat India, we beat South Africa earlier, and then we came back and we had the 2-1 loss. That whole period of time, I have noticed that one of the keys to West Indies' success is the use of pace of the ball. And I think that is going to be key on these services. It's also going to be important how they play against the spin, because Papua New Guinea put us in a little bit of a spin last night. And I know that I don't think you would get away against Afghanistan if you were in that situation. You know, Afghanistan, maybe India, those teams that have are really top quality spinners and more than one. You know,
England
so they'll
too.
be coming at you. So that is one of the areas that were of concern to me. How the West Indies handle spin through the rest of this tournament. But I think the surfaces, we need to take a look at the surfaces and how they are utilized, how the teams utilize perform on these surfaces.
Basil?
I agree with Wayne. The surfaces, which for me is very, it brings in a factor of adjusting, which I like to see cricketers have to be able to do. I don't want to see you going from one country to the next and all the services is the same way. It gets boring. And I think with some of our surfaces, it actually helps to bring those associate teams that may not be as the highest caliber. It helps to bring them that they could challenge some of these bigger nation teams if you get a surface that doing a little something and you have capable bowlers on your team that can exploit them. I mean, if you remember when we played Ireland a couple of years ago in Jamaica, and that was a pitch where you winning the toss was the way to go, because the wicket did a little something up front, and the Ireland fast medium to medium pace bowlers took the pitches in their hand and put West Indies in the back foot in every game and ended up beating us in that one-day series. So I think that plays a big role. I agree with Wayne also. Spin, as we know, everybody knows that's an Achilles heel for us, especially against good quality spinners, because one of the areas for our batters where we have been lacking is between over 7 and 50, where the bulk of spin is bowled. And the last thing, the dead bowling thing, Sammy's position on that, I've heard him say it, is that, as you said, Phil, get wickets up front, because if you could get more wickets up front, you can lessen the damage on the back end, because you ain't gonna have the same amount of batters or a team going into the last 15 with 2 wickets down or just 3. But if you're going into the back end with 5 or 6, the damage, you can ameliorate the damage a lot better than if it was 2 or 3 wickets. So it's very important that we take wickets up front.
Well said.
The game, the Barbados, just quickly, the Barbados, the game, it showed that you can have really thrilling, exciting matches if you bring bowlers into the game. I think that's what happened.
Exactly.
It was a low-scoring game, but it was
Yes.
a thrilling, close game because the bowlers had a part to play.
It's just like in America in the 90s, they juiced up the baseball, brought in the fences in many stadiums because they said the chicks dig the home runs. But then after people seeing games 17, 12, 20, 11, all the home runs flying up the park, it became the game. People started saying this is not interesting baseball. I know it's more interesting to watch a 3-1 game or 3-2 game or 1-0 game where the pitchers come into play. You know what I mean? That every pitch counts and so on. And so with the T20 game. Bring the pitches, bring the bowlers in, and test these guys' techniques. Some of these guys who think they're big-time batters, all of a sudden we see that they really are not big-time batters the minute the ball starts to do something.
Gentlemen, we are out of time. Thanks to you, Basil. Thanks to you, Wayne. I really look forward to engaging with you guys again as the T20 World Cup continues. That's our show. Thanks for watching. Join us again soon for another episode of Anything Cricket Let's Talk, the Straight Drive edition, where we focus on the T20 World Cup.